party for a Bible talk. All right, we played the 12 Days of Christmas, and everybody had to be something. You guys see that video?
Yeah.
You know, 12 maids of milking. That was interesting. We had some unique insight into these things.
Let's go, Curtis.
Awesome. Of course, we had our church Christmas party, the ugly sweater contest.
Yeah.
You know, Tim. What do we
Come on,
do with Tim?
Well, I don't know.
This is where prayer comes in. I felt a little slighted. I felt like my sweater was pretty ugly, and nobody really responded to that.
Yeah.
Your face made it look better.
You know what I'm saying?
It's usually like
Your
that.
face made it look better.
But here's the thing. Shane was up front.
Come on, this was awesome.
His was awesome, yes. You know, it was Darth Vader, right? It was a cool sweater.
It was
There's nothing ugly about it.
To be up there.
What's that?
I paid a lot for it. So
He bribed the judges. Then there's Kathy.
Come on,
Needless to say more. Then we had the white elephant gift exchange, and all such crazy things come out of that. You know, a lot of families have a lot of different family traditions. Okay, and I appreciate Shane sharing his. Where they're all, I envision us doing the same thing at the door, trying to get out there. Of course, I've tried to hide amongst the furniture to try to, you always get caught, of course. And my dad had this strange tradition where he would put the tree up and everything on Christmas Eve while we were asleep. Wow. So you come down and it's like, of course, as a kid, you just kind of go absolutely insane. But, that's the thing. It's all about these traditions and all the fun stuff, and yet giving is a big part of it, right? Well, today we're going to have a unique sermon. Come on. All right? A special sermon. And I'm not going to be doing the whole sermon. Yeah, we're going to have 3 different speakers today. Open your Bibles to Matthew chapter 2. Let me set this thing up.
Come on, set it up.
Matthew chapter 2. It's the first book of the New Testament.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. Matthew chapter 2. Starting verse 1. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him. When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests, teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. In Bethlehem in Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people Israel. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him. After they had heard the king, they went away, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Okay, you have an interesting little situation here. Jesus is born. And then it says these guys, the Magi from the east, come because they've noticed this star. And the word Magi actually means specialists in astronomy. All right? But they're also to be kings, all right? So the whole idea here is they're coming, and they know that, hey, there's something going on here. There's this special star, and it's moving, and we're going to go follow where it takes us. Now, there is a quote in Psalm 72:10 that talks about it, and they're guided by a star. It's a very interesting situation. Now, Herod wants to know about this thing. Well, why is Herod all excited? Well, because he knows about the prophecies of Jesus and that this new king is coming, and he is feeling threatened by this little baby.
Yeah.
All right? But he takes it seriously. And it says he pulls in the Magi secretly.
Oh.
All right? You know, and then it says the star appears again, and they're overjoyed, and it brings them, and it says it stops over the house. If you look in verse 9, verse 11, it says, on coming to the house. So a lot of people believe that this was after, you know, they're in the manger scene and all that, but this is a little bit later that they're actually in a house now. Okay? Hate to throw off the traditions and stuff like that, but that's what it's talking about. All right? So they're overjoyed. And they bring these gifts that are worthy for a king. They're expensive gifts. And the two guys and myself are going to come up and share about these gifts. Of course, we're going to have gold. Johnny's going to be speaking on gold. Frankincense is going to be by Victor, and I'm going to do the myrrh. Now, you got to understand, you know, of course, our society attributes the gift giving to this situation. And realizing that God is a giver of gifts, great gifts. Of course, He gave us a son, but there needs to be a spirit of giving. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to focus on that. Each one of these gifts had a specific meaning behind them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, we're going to have Johnny come on up.
Let's go,
John. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the gold. What does the gold mean? Okay, so what is gold? Gold is obviously, it's a metal, okay?
Oh, come on.
And it's so expensive because it has certain qualities that are very valuable. It's very soft. That's why people bite on it all the time. They're trying to test if it's real. They take a bite. Jay's a jeweler. If you didn't know that, he bites gold all the time.
He's a gold biter.
Gold doesn't tarnish. Gold doesn't tarnish. So because it's so pure, it doesn't really get old. It doesn't rust or anything. Gold tarnishes now because we add all sorts of things to it. But back then, they didn't add stuff.
Come on, Johnny.
It's soft, and now we even know that it carries electricity well. But they didn't know that back then, obviously. Gold, since it was something that kings had. It was a symbol of royalty. It was basically to symbolize the king. Every king had a gold crown or a gold statue, or something gold. It made you know that they were in charge. They owned the wealth of the land.
Come on.
Come on.
And so they give the gift of gold to Jesus because guess what? He's the king.
Right.
David was the powerful king that all the Jews knew, and they were waiting for this prophecy that said that a king would fill David's throne. So they're waiting for all these prophecies. Jay kind of talked about it. Waiting for these prophecies, and then Jesus comes, and King Herod hears about the Magi, kind of knowing who the king is, and so Herod gets very kind of like insecure about his power.
Yeah.
He hears that a king's coming, and I've never been afraid of a baby before, but King Herod was.
Come on.
That's how powerful Jesus is as a king.
Come on.
But we don't usually think of Jesus as a king kind of character. We think of Jesus as the nice guy, or the forgiving, the loving, he's awesome, he heals, and the Savior, but we don't think of him as king.
Come on.
And because we don't think of Jesus in this character aspect that he has, we kind of lose some of the value of Jesus. Let's go to John 18.
Wow. Come on, Johnny.
Let's go, bro.
John 18, verse 1.
This is gold, bro.
Oh, thanks, Victor. Verse 1, it says, when he had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side, there was an olive grove, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the grove, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Okay. I've never been able to speak something and then someone fall to the ground.
Come on.
The soldiers, these are soldiers and chief officials. They're looking for someone to kill. Like they're looking for someone to get arrested. And all he says is, I'm the guy you want, and they fall to the ground.
Wow.
And just Jesus announcing his very presence freaked them out. They drew back and then fell. So it wasn't just like straight to the ground. They had to get away a little bit.
Wow.
And that's the presence of the king.
Wow.
Come on.
Come on, Johnny.
And some scholars believe that when Jesus said, I am he was using the same name that God used in Exodus 3:14, talking to Moses. He was using his name. He was, I am who I am. And they were freaked out because they knew that this guy was important. But we don't have that kind of respect for Jesus.
Come on.
Wow. Come on.
Jesus will say something and we'll kind of like, all right, cool, I'll think about it. You know, go on that way. But that's not how kingship works. When there's a king, he's the authority. You don't really get a say. If you disagree with the king, it's prison or off with your head. Luckily, Jesus is a little nicer, but that's the king. But he's still the king.
Come on,
Amen?
bro. Come on, Johnny.
So let's go to, we don't have to turn there because Tracy went there. Matthew 28, verse 18 says, I have all authority in heaven and on earth. Jesus is saying, I'm in charge of heaven and earth. Who lives on heaven, who lives in heaven, who doesn't live in heaven. Who lives on earth, who dies on earth. Who enters earth, who doesn't even get born. Jesus is the very, and we think about kings and they have all these powers. Oh, the Persian Empire, you know, the Qing dynasty, all these kings that, the Roman Empire that kind of like controlled a lot of the earth. Jesus says he's in charge of all of earth.
Come on.
And then he says, and heaven as well.
Wow.
So it's like blowing out all the other kings in history.
Yeah.
We could turn to Luke 14.
Come on, Johnny.
And when the soldiers fell to the ground, they fell. I'm assuming they fell on their knees. Okay, that's how I fall. Protect myself. You know, I don't fall on my head. Okay.
Come on.
And so there's a saying I like to use. It's you're either already on your knees for God, or you will be put there.
Wow. Wow.
What that means is you're deeply in love with God. You'll do anything. You're on your knees. You're do whatever it takes to be with you. I love you so much. Or it's in fear and trembling, like the soldiers.
Come on, bro.
And far be it, I don't want to be the fear and trembling. I will be scared, but I will already be on my knees because I love God. And so there's no kind of like, oh, I don't know, God, this is hard, or I don't know, God, this is challenging. But when you're on your knees, there's no room for excuses. There's no room for pride either. You can't say, oh, I'm trying to look good. Have you guys ever been put on your knees, like in life, situationally?
Yeah.
Like, for example, with your finances.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're broke, you're about to get evicted maybe, I don't know you guys' life. You're bankrupt. Maybe you just zero in your bank account.
Come on.
And you're on your knees, you're like, I need help, I need anything.
Amen.
Or maybe it's with a relationship, or you're broken down on tears, crying. And Jesus wants us to be close to Him on our knees. Amen?
Amen.
Let's read Luke 14,
Come on, Johnny.
Come on, Johnny.
verse 31. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Will you not first sit down and estimate and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the coming 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is a long way off, and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything cannot be my disciple. So Jesus kind of like, he lays it down. You're one king, and it's a symbolism. You guys are one king. You're king over your lives. You choose what you do. Your actions are yours. Your mind is yours. People don't control you. Take responsibility. Okay? You're king over your lives. And then it says there's another king coming against you. He has more soldiers than you. And you guys don't have 10,000 soldiers with you. Trust me. Hey, you wouldn't be here if you did. Okay?
Come on.
10,000 people would be in here. That would be awesome. But so Jesus is saying that 20,000 is coming and you will get destroyed because they have more soldiers than you. And God is the other king. So you either get destroyed on the last day when He's coming, Or you send a delegation while the others are a long way off, and you say, "All right, we need terms of peace. I'm not trying to get killed." So either way, there will be a loss on your side. It will be a surrender, or it will be a destruction. You will be destroyed, completely obliterated.
Come on.
Wow.
And so we have this choice: do we send the delegation, or do we wait for destruction?
Delegation.
When I was in high school, I lived not a Christian life. I did not, even though I believed in God, and even I knew He existed, and I knew I was going to hell, but I still chose not to live a Christian life. And I remember the only thing that would help me was finding distractions. I would try and distract myself with whatever it was: TV, drinking, partying, hanging out with friends, sleeping in, or just hanging out, doing crazy stuff, playing video games, whatever it was. I was just trying to find a distraction because I knew at the end of the day that I would not be going to heaven, I would be going to hell. And that terrified me. I remember a lot of nights, you can ask my mom about this actually, I would go to bed and I would not be able to sleep at all. I would be thinking, where am I going to go when I die? If I die in my sleep, will I be in hell when I wake up?
Wow.
And that terrified me. I knew Jesus had the authority, but I chose to kind of like push it aside and kind of not think about it. And that's not the right heart.
Right.
We want Jesus as king because we love Jesus, right?
Yeah.
We
Come
don't
on.
want to get destroyed, amen?
Amen.
I think about this quote. I was watching Mulan. I love Mulan.
Yes.
And so Attila the Hun storms into he storms into the castle or whatever, and he's in the room alone with the emperor, and he has a sword to the emperor's face, and he's saying, "Bow to me." He keeps yelling, "Bow to me" to the emperor, and the emperor is just still. He's not going to do anything. And I feel like that's how we can be with God. We have all these expectations of God to provide for our lives, or God to work for us, instead of us working for God and our beliefs for God.
Wow. Come on.
And so the emperor, knowing his power, this is what he says. He says, "No matter how the wind howls, the mountain cannot bow to it." All right, so my challenge is just to make Jesus king of your life, guys.
Come on, Victor.
Come on, Victor.
Come on, Victor.
All right. Good morning, guys. I think Johnny did an amazing job. Yeah, he's just a cute boy. You know.
Come on,
You
Johnny.
did great, man. Appreciate your mom is really proud of you and your brother, and everyone. We're proud of you, bro. Appreciate it.
Amen.
And my topic is the frankincense, the incense, and obviously I didn't know what it is, and so I had to Google it. And it's basically an aromatic gum that is obtained from an African tree. So if you think about it, I thought about this like, okay, you have the three wise men, one of them is black. I don't know if it's coming from Africa. This is he, the one who brought from the African tree, this incense. I don't know.
Come
Come on,
on.
bro.
Okay,
Come on.
so but I was
Brother.
interested that it came specifically from Africa. Don't know.
Come
Come
on.
on.
Okay.
Connect the dots, brother.
Now, frankincense, the incense was a gift for deity, like just to represent something, to bring in honor to something bigger than you, something supreme, right? And in this case, it's Jesus, who is the Son of God, God alone, right?
Yeah.
He's the supreme being, our God. And obviously the Magi bring this valuable gift to him as a sign of respect, right? And also frankincense was a very valuable product back then. It was like Jay said, it is very expensive. So this was given to them to provide for the trip to go to Egypt and back. And so it was a financial resource. Now, one very important point here that we gotta focus. Obviously, we talked about the three wise men, the gold, the incense, and the myrrh. Now, a lot of people get carry on like, what does it really mean? They go deep and study it out, and it's good to do that. You gotta study it out, but don't miss the point, right? And I do believe the point here is that the wise men came in and brought gifts to worship Jesus for who he was. Right? Now, the essence of true worshiping is to honor Christ for who he is and be willing to give something that is valuable to you. So think about what is valuable to you today. Your wife, you got to be willing to give it to him. Your car, your finance, your work, anything that is valuable to you today, at this moment that you're seeing it before Christmas, You gotta be willing to surrender it. Here's my gift.
Yeah.
Here's my life.
Come on.
It's all yours.
Mm.
And if you're not willing to give something that is valuable, then that very thing is owning you.
Mm.
And in
on.
Christmas, it's about giving, right?
Yeah.
So we gotta give it up. Now, for now, how can we honor God with? Obviously, we don't burn incense, like we used to in the past. Well, there's a different way today. How can we honor Jesus today? Well, we gotta ask ourselves, what is my aroma?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about aroma. What is represented in the Bible?
Come on.
What is it's a nice, pleasing aroma,
Come on,
right?
Victor.
What is a bad one, right?
Come on.
Now, back in the day, showering wasn't very common.
Yeah.
Oh, come
Okay,
on.
people didn't shower that much.
Amen.
Okay, maybe once a week, twice a week. I don't know. Okay.
Still a practice.
Now,
Amen.
because of life circumstances back then, men or women will share their house with the farm animals. They will have their kitchen, their utensils, and your beds, and then you have a little fence that divides, and then you have the animals there. You have the cow, the horse, the donkey. So that brings a lot of bad odor,
Oh,
aroma,
aroma.
bad, right? So they will use this incense just to burn the incense to cover the bad odor, the bad aroma, right? Now, one of the things that I realized when I was studying this out, if you notice in the Old Testament, God required incense burnt offering every day. Every single day there was a burnt offering for God. Now, I thought, well, why would he do it every day? I don't know. Okay, so they were sacrificed. Remember, the sacrifice for a sin back then was an animal. You had to slaughter, you had to kill it. So that brings a lot of bad odor, a lot of bad aroma. So, I guess to an extent, obviously, the incense was to please God, but it was also to cover the bad aroma of sin,
Wow.
the bad odor of man, because we are
Victor.
represented by sin,
Yeah.
right?
Come
So,
on, bro.
so it's very important to understand this point. Now, for us today, let me show you where we can honor God with our incense. Go to Psalm 141.
Come on. Come on. Come on, bro.
Psalm 141. It says, "O Lord," this is King David. "O Lord, I call to you. Come quickly to me. Hear my voice when I call to you." Verse 2. This is where it gets interesting. "May my prayers be set before you like incense." Now, our prayers is our frankincense today.
Wow.
Come on.
Right? When we pray, is it pleasing to God? Or maybe it's not. Now, what David is declaring, it says, "Let my prayers rise up to your throne, O God. Let it be pleasing to him, and let it remove the bad odor or the bad aroma that I carry with me." So if you think about it, when you have something heavy in your heart, that it may not be so righteous. Maybe there's some sin, there's something wrong with your heart. Isn't it nice when you go and pray and you let it go?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you feel like, I can breathe now.
Yeah.
Because all the gunk comes out, all the bad aroma,
Yeah.
now you can breathe. Right? Now, obviously, when we don't pray, we carry that with us.
Yeah.
We have all this bad stuff in our heart. Now, there was one occasion in the Bronx. Obviously, if you guys don't know, I was leading the Bronx with me and my wife,
Come on.
and we had a leaders meeting.
Come on.
Then we were talking about, hey, how can we make things better? What do you guys think I should change? What do you think we should change? I specifically said, well, we can change.
Yeah.
And everything turned against me.
Oh.
I was like, one brother said, hey, well, maybe you should do this, do that. Maybe you should try this. I was like, okay. And there's another brother who just came at it too and said, yeah, you should change this. And maybe if you change this, we will change this. So it's kind of like they were attacking.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, and it's funny because the brother who started everything ended up falling away. So he just stirred the pot and walked out. So at first, during at the moment, because of maybe my state of spirituality at the moment, I didn't react. I just listened, and I was like, okay, it's interesting. And then, but eventually, those words stayed with me, what they were sharing, and I was like, I was hurt.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was indignant to an extent. I was like, what the heck? You know, I go the extra mile, and I was like, and I feel like they were stabbing me in the back with no mercy.
Wow.
And I looked at my wife, and you know, you can saw her face. She's like, you know, get these people out of my house.
Right.
You know, but then I had to wrestle with these feelings because I was pulling my heart back. And I knew I was coming here to Milwaukee. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm leaving anyways. Maybe I should just pull my heart back. You know? But that's not godly. So I literally got myself in the morning and crossed the street to Bancorlan Park, which is a huge park. And, you know, I sat down on a rock and just started crying. And the reason why I was crying is because I was frustrated, but I was really hurt. And I was like, God, what's going on here? I'm doing my best, and your people are going after me. The very own people I'm leading. And then I remember, isn't that what happened to Jeremiah? Isn't that what happened to David? Isn't that what happened to all the prophets?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
If you want to be a prophet in God's kingdom, that may happen.
Yep.
But I had to wrestle with my heart because there was some bad aroma coming from it. And then now, the house was getting affected. My wife started to see, okay, you're in a bad mood, dude. What's going on here? Isaac was starting to see it. You know, Katie at the table living with us. I don't know if she noticed it, but there was some kind of tension going on in my heart. I was kind of retreating myself, you know, from the rest of it. But see, that's what happens when you don't pray and you don't deal with your sin.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if I drop a rotten egg right in the middle of this room, immediately people will notice that, oh, there's something wrong here. Right? There's a bad odor here. We should get out. And then we start questioning, who is it? But see, a lot of times when we don't pray, we don't bring our prayers to God, our sin can do that to the people around us. It affects us, but then it's going to affect the rest of the group. So, you know, we have to pray consistently.
Come on.
Now, one fact here that I learned is that the incense altar was always burning. Now, if our prayers are incense and this incense altar was always burning, what does that mean? We always pray. We don't let the fire die. And that's what they did back then. And if you go to Luke 18.
Come on, bro.
Come on, Victor.
Come on, baby.
We're going to see, obviously we see Jesus praying all the time.
Yeah.
He prayed in various occasions. You see through the Bible, he retreats to pray, to get his heart right. I don't know, but he needed to pray. You know, when John the Baptist was beheaded, he went and prayed. When he was feeling overwhelmed, he went and prayed. When he was happy, he prayed. When he talked to his father in the Transfiguration, you see the pattern of prayer through Jesus' life is evident. It's there. And then obviously in Luke 18, verse 1, it says, when Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should pray what? Always. Pray and not give up. And obviously we know the parable is about the persistent widow.
Yeah.
Right? You always pray. Pray consistently. And you will get, if it's godly, God will come through. You know, one of the things that if you notice, when you open if you leave the faucet little open and you see the drop coming, right? It's consistent. It's consistent. Now, if you let a drop come down on concrete that is solid, eventually time goes by, and then the drop that is consistently hitting the ground, it will make an imprint. It will leave a trail. Like, okay, there is something. There's the whole because it comes out, right? So our prayer needs to be like the drop that comes down all the time. So leave a trail, leave an impact on what we do. But it has to be. Now, I'm not saying that you're annoying God, because that drop can be annoying when you're listening to it, right? But the pattern here is that you gotta pray always, consistently.
Come on.
Right? You gotta persevere. Now, obviously, one thing that Jesus did was always praying. What? Because he wanted to please God with his aroma.
Yeah.
He needed to do that. Obviously, he needed strength too. Now, in 1 Thessalonians 5:17, what it says? pray continuously. So it has to be a lifestyle.
Yep.
Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 2.
Come on, bro.
Come on.
We all have an aroma. Whether it's bad or good, it's up to us. Second Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. This Paul speaking. But thanks be to God, who always leads us in a triumphant procession in Christ, and through us express everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of Him. For we are to God the aroma of Christ among those who are being saved, and those who are perishing. To one, we are the smell of death. To the other, the fragrance of life. You know, we all have an aroma.
Yep.
Either people are going to be saved because of your aroma, or they're going to run away from you. Your lifestyle matters. Now, back then in the Old Testament, the incense, the place where they were burning the incense, the altar, from time to time the priest had to purify it. They would kill a bull, which represented the sin offering, the sacrifice, and they will bring the blood to purify the altar, to atone for it. Now, because they need to purify it. Now, if you think about it in the cross, Jesus came in and died on the cross. He spilled his blood, right? And it said in Romans, it says that the faith in the blood of Jesus is what saves us.
Yep.
Right? So we're being purified. Our prayers, they're already pleasing to God if we are purifying ourselves, because we have the blood of Jesus covering us. Now, a lot of times we feel like, well, if I pray to God, I don't know, there's so much sin in my life, how can I pray to God? Well, this is what you need. When you don't want to pray, that's when you need it the most.
Right. Yeah.
And you gotta go after it and pray and purify your heart. Now, when we start the purification process, when you start holding back, you don't confess your sin, you don't pray to God, you don't burn incense to God. You're not praying. You know, so I think about it in this Christmas season. Everybody gives. Hopefully, everybody. There's something that we can give.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what's the best gift that we can give to God? And I thought, well, if we can give something to God, I do think that it has to be our prayers.
Come on.
That are pleasing to Him.
Yeah.
They can smell it. Somebody's praying in Milwaukee. Shane, you smell really good, my man. You know? And please God this Christmas. You know, a lot of times we focus on pleasing man with gifts and everything. But what about our gift to God? This Christmas, do not miss an opportunity to pray. Not just on Christmas. The burning incense altar is always burning.
Come on.
That means it never dies.
Yeah.
Don't let your prayer die in this season. Let it burn more than ever. And let's give God a gift that He can smell and enjoy. Thank you, guys.
Awesome job. Awesome job. Let's go back to Matthew chapter 2. And I'll be closing with speaking on myrrh. Okay, what exactly is myrrh? Well, myrrh was to signify his death. A lot of people don't know this, but what myrrh actually is it's an expensive embalming fluid. In other words, when someone dies, you embalm them with myrrh. All right? Now, what a very strange gift to give.
Yeah.
All right? Imagine on Christmas morning, you wake up and somebody gives you some embalming fluid to work with. Thank you. All right? But, you know, it was, to signify death. And really, we're going to look at that as the focus, as Jesus in his life and death. Verse 13. It says, when they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said. Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so it was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet. Out of Egypt I called my son. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious. And he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Wow, what an intense situation here. All right? Basically, God warns Joseph, says, get out of here. Herod's going to kill Jesus. So he takes off to Egypt. Unfortunately, he has all these great gifts that he could survive in Egypt and get there. You know. And then what happens? Herod finds out and he's ticked off. It says he's furious. And so what does he do? He gives orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and the vicinity. All right, now this is a pretty challenging thing. You got to realize how intense that is. Yeah. Imagine all the children, Milwaukee and the surrounding area, 2 years old and younger, are killed because of this baby being born. Wow. Can you imagine the ripple effect of the feeling of what's going on? All right, this is their Christmas. Okay. Wow. You don't see this on a Christmas card.
Right.
All right, and Herod killed all these children. But it shows the power that Herod had. Can you imagine any politician saying, okay, we're going to kill all the children 2 years and younger? Can you imagine the strife, the hatred towards the government, all that happened? And so Jesus' birth creates this negative spirit of death everywhere. Wow. And so we don't realize exactly what's going on. And for us, we understand the death of the cross. Of course, Jesus had to die so that we would be free. That we would be free from guilt and free from fear and all sorts of things. We understand that. But it's also for us. Let's look in Luke chapter 9.
Come on.
Now here you got a king, just like Johnny said, here's a king afraid of a baby. And he felt threatened by this child. And you know, for us, it's the same thing. We could feel very threatened by Jesus. A lot of people do. A lot of people won't even read the Bible because they know, hey, if I read this, find out what I got to really change, they feel threatened by that.
Yeah.
There's a fear that can come as a result. And imagine Jesus carrying the knowledge of all these children dying his whole life. You know, imagine going to Bethlehem. There's no males your age. Why? Because they were all killed because of you. And so there's a heaviness in this birth. And it's amazing in our society how we focus on the birth of Jesus and we make it a bigger deal than Easter, the death of Jesus. And there's people who, you know, they worship Jesus on Easter, amen. But, man, we've taken this whole Christmas thing to a whole other level.
Yeah. Right.
And yet, what the whole thing signified and the Bible focuses is on the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Look in Luke chapter 9, verse 21.
Come on.
Let's start in verse 20. Jesus says, but what about you? He asked, who do you say I am? Peter answered, the Christ of God. Jesus strictly warned them not to tell this to anyone. And he said, the Son of Man must suffer many things, be rejected by the elders, chief priests, teachers of the law. And he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. Then he said to them all, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and there you got it, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self? Okay, Jesus talking and he says, hey, who do people say I am? They're saying, you're the Christ. Now, the word Christ is a title. All right, it's Messiah, Christ. It's the Messiah, the anointed one. And this is what Herod was afraid of. And he says, don't tell anybody. Why? Because he knew that they would try to force Jesus to be king before his time was ready. And so he says, don't tell anyone. He says, but in fact, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to suffer, I'm going to be tortured, I'm going to be killed, but I'm going to be raised also on the third day. Now, come follow me. And you imagine people going to go, oh my stars, you know, what did you just say? And you want me to be with you? You want me to become what you are? He says, yeah, in fact, you need to deny yourself every day. You need to carry a cross every day. Well, what was the cross for? They understood it. Yeah. They saw people dying. It happened centuries before Jesus came around. They used to crucify people all the time. And he's saying, you got to carry a cross every single day. Yeah. And he says, what good is it for you to have all these things in the world and yet lose or forfeit your very self?
Yeah.
And see, we got to understand the power of death. That, hey, no matter what happens, Jesus is raised to life. Right. And Jesus saying the same will happen to you. And that's where the whole born again comes on in. That on a daily basis, you can rise again. Yeah. You can be different. You can deny self. You can crucify those areas of your life daily. Have victory. And that's what brings the hope. That's what it's all about. Look in Hebrews chapter 12.
Come on.
Come on.
And so Jesus tries to change our mentality towards death. That death is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And what he's calling these guys to isn't bad, it's awesome. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1. He says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and run with perseverance a race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. You know, you look at this passage, it's challenging. He says, listen, get rid of the sin. Get rid of those things that entangle you and slow you down. The distractions of life. Why? All right? Because those things stop you from running the race. And there's a race marked out for each one of you.
Yeah.
Candace, there's a race.
Come on. Right.
Yeah. Brandon.
Yes.
It's a different race, but it's a race. You're going to run the race.
Imitate Bolt.
But you got to get rid of those things that are in the way. You know, that doesn't mean, okay, hey, let's throw out our kids and all that kind of stuff. No, that's not what we're talking about here. What are the things that stop you from doing what's right? That's where he said you got to deny yourself. And you got to crucify the sin. You got to kill it. You bury it.
Yeah, come on,
something dies, you know, you don't keep playing around with that thing. If I had a pet cat that died, I wouldn't keep playing with Fluffy.
No.
No, it begins to stink, and that's where the frankincense comes in. No, you bury it. It doesn't come back.
Right.
And so that's how we got to deal. There's got to be a death to those things that we know are ungodly. When we do that, it brings joy to our life. It brings a freedom to our life. And Jesus says, hey, it says for Jesus, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. Why was it joyful? I can't imagine him being all fired up on the way to the cross. But he understood that his death would have a ripple effect. That there would be a lot of changed lives. That so many people would benefit. So many people would be rescued. And God says, you can do the same thing. That you and I can change the atmosphere of the world that we live in. And we need to. Milwaukee's in bad shape. You know, it's very hard to hear all the things going on. You know, just talking to Tracy and the situation in the school system. It's like, wow. And our society's got to change. Well, it's got to change from inside. We can't put a Band-Aid on things.
Right.
And what do? One at a time, we change people's lives. Are we perfect?
No.
Absolutely not. We have a little stink with us, just like Victor said. We've got to deal with that thing through prayer. But through denial of self also. And it takes a lot to deny self. We don't like to do it.
Right.
Look in Philippians chapter 1. I'm going to close there.
Come on.
Paul got this. He understood it. Now, Paul writes the book of Philippians in jail. And he knows he's soon to die. And he does die. They end up chopping his head off. All right? But he writes the book of Philippians, and in the book of Philippians, the word joy or rejoice are in there 18 times
Oh, wow.
in 4 chapters. But look what he says. Philippians chapter 1, starting verse 20. He says, I eagerly expect and hope that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage, so that now as always Christ will be exalted in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I am to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor to me. Yet what shall I choose? I don't know. I am torn between the two. I desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but it is more necessary for you that I remain in the body. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain, and I will continue with all of you for your progress in the joy in the faith, so that through my being with you, again, your joy in Christ Jesus will overflow on account of me. And so he's saying this death brings joy. But you got to look at Paul. This is amazing. What do you do with a guy like this? He's like, hey, Paul, we're going to kill you. Okay, I can see that. Okay, I'll die. I'll be with Jesus. Better by far. Okay, let's do that. No, we're not going to kill you. Okay, well, that means more fruitful labor and more joy for you. What do you do with a guy who's already died?
Wow.
You can't do any more to him. And Jesus says, listen, you can have that freedom if you understand it. Did you guys ever see the movie Braveheart?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Braveheart. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it.
Yes.
Awesome. So William Wallace, true story,
Yep.
guy challenges him, and he says, you're going to die. And he says, hey, we all die. It's just a question of how and when.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same for us. How you're going to die and when you're going to die. And why. He goes on, he says, every man dies, but not every man really lives.
Wow.
And what is your life, what is it all about? And the question is, what sin have you not crucified? What area have you not died to? Last week I did a sermon and I had 2 points. Everybody remember the 2 points?
Yep.
To do a quiz?
Deny yourself and do what's right.
Oh!
Come on, Steph.
You get the gold star.
Oh,
Yeah. It's deny self and do what's right. Very simple, but very hard to do.
Right.
And so I thought, that's what I'm going to do this week. And moment by moment, there are so many areas that I had to deny. I'd say, yes, I'm going to do it. Yes, I'm going to do it. And it was kind of tough. I mean, I'll tell you, it was like, wow, I can't believe how selfish I am. Because there's so many times there's that battle, that war going on in you. But it brings a confidence. You're just doing what's right. And it brings a joy. Because you can feel good about yourself. And you change others around you.
Yeah.
I did a lot of cleaning,
Hey.
cooking,
Oh,
dishes.
snap.
Come on over.
It was
Barn's fire.
Are you raising the bar, bro?
Raise the bar.
We live down the street.
All right, come on over. So, the whole message of the cross is Jesus' death. And the whole idea of giving is what God's all about. And if we're to follow Jesus, that needs to be who we are. That we're a giver too, because we die to our lives. And we're a giver of greater gifts. It's one thing to give people presents on Sunday. But it's another thing to give of your heart.
Yeah.
It's another thing to deny self and say, you know what, I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to be critical. I'm not going to be all these things. And it changes the atmosphere. And that's a greater gift that we can bring people. All right? So I'm going to close with a challenge.
Oh.
Once again, what are the areas that you're not denying? Tell the person discipling you. Call them to challenge you on it. And change it. Because we have a lot of work to do, guys. We have a whole city that needs help. It's hurting in so many ways.
Yeah.
And let's honor God with our death. Amen?
Amen.
Yeah, great job. Let's give another round of applause for everybody, for Johnny and Such amazing service today. Just starting with Marvell and the communion.
Come on.
just really thanking God for the things that like He's given you. So just being grateful. I know you started off with that, just the gratitude. And so I think sometimes we can forget. And so that's why it's best to just kind of take some paper and just write down the things that you're grateful for. And you'll realize, like, man, there's so much that I have that I don't even realize that I have.
Yeah.
Or if you look at someone who doesn't have as much as you have, and you just look and say, man, wow, I can't believe I have a car, like you talked about, a car, a wife, food in your refrigerator, like all those different things that you use every day or you see every day, but it can just easily go by because you're not aware of it. Yeah. And the people who don't have those are things that they pray for. And they realize, like, man, I wish I had a car. Mm-hmm. I wish I had food in my refrigerator. I wish I had a job. And so those, like, I wish I had money in my bank account. Even just like sometimes you may think, like, oh man, I only have $500 to my name. Oof. And people are like, $500?
Right.
I would love to have money. I have negative $500. I see people that have negative $500. A lot of money negative. So you realize, like, man, I had it so great. And when you kind of talked about problems with your sister, and then you talked about just being self-justifying, that's what we can feel. Like, oh, I did enough. Now it's on that person.
Come on.
I'll meet you 50% of the way. You got to do the other 50%. But Jesus went the whole 100%.
Come on.
And so He met us where we were at. And so sometimes we can think that way. I know for me, it's like, okay, I tried this 3 times. I'm not doing it anymore. Now it's on that person to reach out. And like you said last week with my brother, I felt like I did 50%. Now it was his turn. But the thing is, sometimes people just won't ever reach out that other 50%.
Yeah.
So you got to keep on going.
Yeah.
Come on.
Keep reaching out and meet them where they're at. And just always remember not to just be self-justified, because, I mean, none of us in here are good. None of us in here are righteous people. Yeah. And so who are we to feel like we're more righteous than someone else? Yeah. We all did wrong as well. Mm-hmm. And then moving on to contribution, man, whoever did contribution, that was... The guy must be amazing. Super lucky.
Yeah. Make you want to raise it.
But she did an amazing job, honestly.
Come
on. Just kind of talking about the reason why we give. And I loved hearing her up here talk. It's just, I love to just be able to listen. Sorry, I'm a little bit biased. But anyway, just kind of like putting contribution with Matthew 28. Because if that was Jesus' last words, is to go and make disciples of all nations, and how do you do it without money? I challenge you to try to do it without spending any money.
Come on.
Go make disciples of all nations by yourself without giving. Or if any of us in here, let's take a whole year off of giving contribution. Oh. Nobody gives money. How far do you think we will get? Not very far. Right? Because we'll be meeting outside, freezing. No one will want to come to church. And there you go, right there. And everybody's heart starts just turning sour. But you see, like, contribution is very, very important. And see, she talked about how she was able to go and visit these different places and see it firsthand. Yeah. And it makes a whole different, like, it makes it totally different when you get to see it firsthand. Mm-hmm. You're more appreciative of what you had, and now you want to give even more because you think, okay, we got to hit these places. Because $50, if they can't, like she said, she went to India, and $50 can cure leprosy, and they don't even have $50 to cure it, and you probably spent $50 this week on something that really isn't anything. Something that just on your own self, but when it gets to contribution, you're like, I don't really have it. Oof. Come on. Matthew 28, make disciples. I don't really know if I have it. You realize it can go so much further than you think it can. Yeah. It's a great job. Also, I just want to lift you up again for just taking it upon yourself to really go out and give those families those gifts. Yeah. Because once again, I told her many times I'm proud of her for really doing it. And there were times like it was a lot. But she thought about others more than she thought about herself. Right. So amazing job with that. Now Johnny. Come on, Johnny. Johnny's so awesome. Like I love Johnny. He's like a brother, a younger brother to me. Like you cannot love Johnny. And so he talked like his was go. And he talked about making like Jesus Lord, making Jesus your king. And so that's where it comes. A lot of times the problem is we want to be our own king. And so we don't really give God and Jesus that kingship. Yeah. And so we kind of make ourselves kings. And so when you think of Jesus, is he really your king?
Question.
Of everything. Or is it a certain point where he stops? Do you get to a certain point and you're like, okay, all right, I have it this much, but okay, I mean, well, you can do all this, but at that point, I'll take over. You know, so sometimes the saying is, if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And so a lot of times that's how we can be. And how long does it take for you to make that happen? Like he talked about basically kind of like being destroyed, or I can't remember the exact word that you use. But you should wait for destruction, or would you rather get on your knees and send that delegation early?
Yeah.
So how long does it take for you to send that delegation? Like, do you wait for the last moment? Like, you look out the window, you say, oh, Jesus is right there on the driveway. All right, let me hurry and write this letter. You see him coming, and you're just like, 1 second. And then he just knocked on the door, and you're like, sorry, I didn't get the chance to write it. And he's like, oh, it's too late.
Oh, wow.
And that's how our heart can be a lot of times.
Yeah.
We try to wait on our own terms, but the thing is, you really don't know your terms.
Right.
Because it's God's. And so you really don't know when he's coming.
Right.
So, like I said, it's better to send a delegation while the other is still a far way off. So if you look out and you say, okay, he's not there. The last time we look out and say, he's not there, okay, I got more time. But you don't know the pace at how fast he's coming. So it's better just to get it done and get it out of the way as soon as possible.
Amen.
And now Victor got the incense. And so really, how do you smell?
Come on.
Not outside, I mean, because I don't have any problem. You guys smell great. But inwardly,
What you trying to say?
people can see those things.
Yeah.
Like I
they
said
do.
about the egg, like, I eat eggs a lot, so that's why everybody's like, come on, Shane, come on, Shane. And so once I open that Tupperware with those eggs in the morning, everybody's like, oh, man. But is that your presence inwardly? Like, do people really want to be around you?
Ooh, come on.
Because nobody really wants to be around those bad smelling eggs.
Right.
Is that your life? Wherever you are, like, is that who you are? Like, where people just like, I love that brother, but they rub me off the wrong way. It seems like they're always in a bad attitude. And always praying every day.
Yeah.
And like you said, they burn incense every day. So how often do you pray? And that's the challenge. So I just want to challenge you with that. Like,
Yeah,
how
come
often
on.
are you praying? Are you doing it every day? Because obviously you're going to smell good every day.
Right.
And so how often are you praying? And so people can see that also, because if you're not praying, it not just only affects you, but it affects those around
Right.
you
Yes.
as well.
Definitely.
Yes.
And lastly, Jay.
Come on.
Ooh.
Jay did an amazing job.
Come on.
And so, well, Jay just talking about the myrrh. And it's funny, I didn't know about the whole embalming thing. I didn't know that. So that's kind of cool that you learn something new every day. But he talks about sin, and how some people just kind of, they put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
They don't really fix the ruts, as Jay would say, not the roots, the ruts. And so you kind of put a Band-Aid on it, or some people, they don't deal with this, and they'd rather run away from it. And so as long as you keep running away, it's going to keep chasing you.
Yep.
Like, the sin is not going to get tired, just like, all right, you beat me. I'm done. I'm just
Right,
coming back around.
right.
You got it. No, you
That
got to deal
whole
with
part.
those issues.
Right.
Because the sin is not going to stop chasing you as long as you kind of keep it with you. And it's like kind of like having like a rope tied around you and tying it to the sin, and you're running, and it's still following on, it's still trailing with you. So you got to deal with it. You got to cut it off. Don't just put a Band-Aid on
Come
it.
on.
Don't try to just run faster. It's going to keep up with you.
Wow.
And so you just got to remember those 3 points. I mean, everybody did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Thank you for hearing that. But really just take these things and consider them every day. The
Yeah.
only thing I want to challenge you with, I love with Stefania, that she remembered the points from last week's
Right.
sermon.
Come on,
And a lot
Steph.
of people in here probably didn't remember.
Ooh, come on.
And I know I didn't remember
Oh.
the exact points. I know the lesson.
Come on, keep
But
it
let's not make it a weekly thing like, okay, this is what we're going to focus on this week, and then next week we just leave that alone. And then we get a new sermon this week, just let it alone. Let those sermons continue to stay with you. I mean, good thing we have an amazing preacher in Jay that gives us amazing lessons every single Sunday. Let's remember those and keep it going. Like, so my challenges to you is the same challenge the same points that Jay had from last week: deny self and do what is right. Continue to make it happen.
Right.
So this week the same challenges: deny self and do what is right. And then
Amen.
next week the same challenges: deny self and do what is right. And that will overflow into everybody in here, is denying self and doing what is right.
Yeah.
And so
Come
with that,
on.
we have a little presentation for the kids. The kids are going to come up.
Come on.
so I'm going to hand it over to Andrew.
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing today? My name is Angel. Me and my wife Jocelyn right there, we lead the Kids Kingdom. And Christy's a teacher over there. And so today the kids just wanted to say thank you. And the scripture I wanted to read quickly for you guys is from 1 Thessalonians 5:18. It reads, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." And so the kids have been very grateful for everything that the parents have done for them. And so we just wanted to give them an opportunity to say one thing that they're grateful for. And we'll start off with Joseph right here. Come on, miss.
I am grateful for my education.
Oh.
I'm thankful for my mom, my siblings, and my parents.
I'm thankful for my mom, my family, and my bed and TV.
Come on, Josiah.
Josiah.
I don't know. He's grateful for
He's being shy, but in Kids Kingdom, he was saying he was grateful for everybody, his parents, and just everyone that has an influence on him in his life.
Oh,
I love you.
Judy's grateful for dinosaurs.
Alright, and as a thank you for everyone, the kids have candy canes that they're going to pass out to everybody. So, you can go this row. Right here. Yours? You give it to this row. Alright, this row. Just one to the candy.
I get two.
Need more? We have more. Okay, so you give one.
Alright, and then we're going to close it out with one last song. We're going to give the kids a little bit more time to pass out the candy canes. Alright, looks like they're on that. So everybody stand up.
Come on, Frankie.
We're going to be singing Joy to the World. That's song number 552 in your songbook. If you don't know the lyrics, please feel free to go and join with us.
That's a good idea.
Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior. Marcus Smith.